I hope it's no secret that I've been at least inadvertently rooting for the Quick team to make a comeback since day one of the English server's debut. I don't like how busted Merlin is, his shadow looms over the entire game with absurd cynicism, and I honestly believe Delightworks may have overrated this card type. FGO hands out Buster and Art's craft essences like candy, but Quick? Nah man, that shit you gotta earn. We gotta make intuition a skill all on its own with no added benefits just because the sheer act of earning critical stars is so overpowered. Oh, wait, shit. No. Then they released Fragments of 2030, so I guess not. Delightworks, maybe if you had released this one like, I don't know, 2 years later, you wouldn't have realized your own self-fulfilling prophecy. So what's the point in Quick anymore when I can just slap this craft essence on one of my supportive team members who isn't even dedicated to dealing damage in the first place and replace the card's role entirely? I'm gaining additional critical stars just by performing actions with any of my given servants, so it's not like I'm ever low. But I can't deny this much. Fortunately, Delightworks made a few remarkable Quick servants during this period before Merlin rose to power, so it wasn't like the term had been buried just yet. In fact, I find it somewhat ironic that the item which began to relieve Quick of its responsibility debuted on the same banner which presented the very character who would later aim to salvage it. Of course it would be Scathach giving hope to the Quick memes. Scathach epitomizes both the best and worst of the card type. She can gain plenty of critical stars all on her own, and perform lots of big crits, because she absolutely needs them to move forward with her NP gauge, having 2 out of 3 of her skills basically always waiting on standby for her to unleash it so that they can be used with maximum efficiency. She is only biding her time before bigger enemies squash her should she not manage to get the opportunity to strike them first with her noble phantasm. Fate Grand Order's Rashomon event proved to be the greater teacher here. So, through her failure, Scathach evolved from a vessel of unwavering potential into a god of lingering salvation. There's just one problem. She still isn't Merlin. Now known as Skadi's Primeval Rune, it raises a targeted ally's quick performance and critical damage dramatically for 3 turns, but it doesn't assist their HP in any way. I feel she would have to increase the ally's critical star drop rate to match this. Her Wisdom of the Great God greatly increases an ally's NP gauge, but it doesn't help develop their attacks. Perhaps Skadi could have given increased NP strength too, or another critical star drop rate boost in its stead. Enter Freezing Blizzard? It's entirely reversed from Merlin's illusion skill, instead inflicting debuffs on all enemies rather than protecting her own party from harm, one of 2 still being something Merlin possesses. If she also decreased all of the enemy's overall attack stat, then we might have something a little less uneven. And sure, the solid attack immunity does eventually come in the form of Skadi's Noble Phantasm, Gate of Sky, and this is where the greatest contention lies. The one-time evade and damage reduction could be spammed in theory thanks to her solid NP gain, deck, and hit counts. Skadi could win out on this one comparison if only compared to Illusion. Compared to Garden of Avalon, it's no contest, Gate of Sky loses. Too many generically great passive buffs to the party and can be spammed much easier, which is how it's notoriously stackable. Merlin is always, either actively or passively, performing some kind of beneficial action. A player doesn't even have to think to use him properly, and there is no negative consequence in choosing him for any party. Really, we should be nicknaming Skadi as the Quick Tamamo. The ratio of supportive acts they commit with each skill and their noble phantasms is strikingly similar, just as well considering the effectiveness of what they do. Though, I'm not even certain that this label is completely accurate. Tamamo grants an arts team everything they desperately need. Cooldowns, stalling, and a consistent NP base gauge. Pretty straightforward. Skadi grants a Quick team everything it desperately needs. Huge damage buffs because their attacks are the weakest, enemy damage reduction because they take a long time to actually perform anything substantial, and a targetable obese NP steroid since Quick has some of the wonkiest NP gain consistency across its grid of hosts. You're either a Jack the Ripper capable of spamming your Noble Phantasm in back-to-back turns, or you're a Scathach performing the role of Sisyphus. That's a lot more babysitting to consider. Buster, on the other hand, is just big damage and nothing else, so Merlin is allowed to grant everyone everything. So much so that I have a theory that he was originally designed with berserkers in mind, but that's just conjecture and you'll probably disown it immediately in the comments. Point is, Quick has a lot of ground to cover if it really wants to become the new meta, or more realistically be equal in intimidation to the looming pillar of Buster cards. Quick is still the worst card type among the 3 since its role is unnecessary, making players' brains hurt with talk of hit counts, NP gain percentages, and star rates, plus its trade-off to cast such a pitiful card in the first place to potentially perform bigger damage later is wildly unreliable most times. Skadi can't completely fix all of these problems by herself. They become apparent again as soon as her boosts would cease. Yes, there are a small handful of characters like Jack and Ryder Kintoki who find these issues negligible for their own sake, but they don't solve the actual card's problems as a whole. Meanwhile, Buster has always been a go-to card since the beginning, because it's consistent at beating up bad guys as hard as possible until they fall fall down, the very goal of FGO's mechanics. Why wait and hope for technical jargon to work out favorably when I could just whack them with a big stick right now? Even Arts doesn't have such problems. When you click on an Arts card, most times you don't have to ponder it. You press the blue button and you know exactly what it intends to do. Arts even hosts the greatest and most iconic support servants in the game, so you're guaranteed to experience its effects. Delightworks had to stop presenting Quick as a cute option and more so as a valuable resource, and Skadi has finally gotten fans to notice Quick servants again, elevating her from not just a great servant, but an important servant. Nonetheless, this bubbling attention will cool fast if the push doesn't continue and educate players on just how much effort has been poured into the technical aspects and playstyles of Fate Grand Order over the past 3 years. Servants Atalante, Alter, and Achilles beforehand had acted as recent foreshadowing to a possible future, but there was still an overwhelming amount of Arts and Buster servants alongside their releases, giving no one a reason to truly sway them from this deep-seated meta defined by Merlin. After all, Scathach can build anything through her runes when given enough of the proper materials, right? So, should a new era of the Quick card be built from her base during this time, then my only wish would be that the English server gets to stay around long enough to experience it themselves. Just so that the last one they see isn't what was broken by a Dick Wizard's memery.